We'll salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
You get the response.
It appears we're here for the purpose of looking at the assessing and planning department budgets tonight. And I think there's some informational.
Yes, the first thing, and I gave it to the candidates as well, is I gave you just a overall budget spreadsheet that I finished off again today. I usually try to keep a running tally of that sheet, just to give you an idea of where we are compared to last year's appropriations or requests, compared to where we are this year. Again, it's not etched in stone. It will not be until the board finally votes on the establishment of a warrant and approvals, but at least it gives you an idea where some of our dollars are at this particular point.
Well, it looks as if the estimated revenue is up some.
Yes, I've estimated the revenue, if you look at the top, and we haven't gone over revenue yet, at 1.734,187. So it's up slightly from the year before.
What's that attributed to, Keith?
A lot of our revenue is, most of our revenue is generated through our revenue sharing from the state, as well as our motor vehicle excise tax fees that stay directly here for the town. And generally, our excise tax runs pretty consistent at about $1 million. So that is our major contributor to our estimated revenue.
The governor isn't going to dip into the excise tax?
Well, there were.
No, they never dip into excise tax. It's revenue sharing they dip into.
Revenue sharing.
Right, there was some proposals a couple of years back where they were looking to drop the mill rate for new cars. They wanted to also change the. Right now, your tax is set on the manufacturer's suggested retail price of the vehicle, even though you may not pay it. It's set on that, and that's what the mill rate is set off of. So that always ends up being a frustrating thing for our taxpayers, as they may negotiate a very good price on a car and then come in to pay their excise tax, and it's based on the MSRP of the vehicle.
And I think that every 2 years, the legislature has a bill, and you argue that on taxation and debate it. We did all the time I was there.
I can understand that, because then it's standardized.
Well, the debate on it is, people would not tell the truth what they paid for a car.
Now, who would lie?
I don't know. I don't know. But that's what the debate is.
It is our revenue source, but when the legislature begins to tweak it, I know that MMA, as well as the other municipal managers, are very concerned about what they're going to end up doing with it, because it does impact us locally.
Yeah, in fact, it's I don't know, maybe it's the only tax that really stays in the town. All the rest of them go to Augusta, and we come, and then they go north, and we get what's left over.
Well, you were in the legislature, madam.
I know it, and that's what happened.
The first one that you have to review would be your assessor's budget. As you know, we have a contract assessing firm that we presently use to provide us services. They have held their contracted price for the upcoming year. Right now, they provide us 2 days a week in the office. To supplement that, we do have an assessing and planning coordinator, and you'll, under the full-time salaries here, you'll see half of that individual's wages and benefit package is reflective within this budget. Primarily, the difference in this budget from the previous year basically breaks down to the health insurance package. Our present employee does not require one, and as a result of that, we don't have to put aside some $7,500 worth of cost associated with that. But that basically is what the assessor's budget is made up of.
But that amount is also found in the budget as well, and because it's paid for that insurance, right?
Correct. There's a life insurance piece in there that's within this budget. But other than that, the health benefit that we normally would put in here has gone away. We don't have to pay for it this year, so we're not gonna raise the money to pay it. And now, if that status changes, obviously, in the event that the employee needs it, then we would have to make a status change and put the money in there. Generally, I think the preliminary budget request done by the planning and assessing coordinator, it just maps out what some of the other line items are in respect to this budget, and they have not changed drastically over from last year to this year.
Yeah, I noticed we have not spent any money out of our contingency fund as of now. The 20,000 down at almost.
Oh, yeah. I'd have to look. I don't know what we've done in terms of contingency. I'd have to look at the
I
our
don't remember
spreadsheet.
that we've spent any money out of it.
I don't believe we have. I think
I don't think we have.
that's the same.
I believe it'll be something that you'll have to talk about very seriously with your new board members in the event that we'll have to be using some of that contingency to cover some of the costs that we have, particularly, as you recall, at our last get-together, we talked about the legal fees. We're substantially over in that. We may have to use some of that to cover some of that expense.
I was just gonna say, if we have anything that goes over budget, like legal fees, we could use it for that. That's what it's for. It's emergencies. Well, I don't know, I don't know if I call that emergency, but anyway, whatever we call it.
Are there any
Your
questions?
tax revenue, it appears it's going down, Keith? And is that because the tannery is not paying their taxes at this stage?
I guess I'm not following.
And down at the bottom, you've got amount collected by taxes.
Yeah, the amount is about $60,000 less than what we had to raise last year, somewhere in that neighborhood.
But is that, how does the tannery affect this?
The tannery doesn't have any effect on that. This is affected by what we have to raise and pay for our services. So in other words, if you look, there are some areas that we're not even requesting money into this year. If I go to the CIP capital for the
Police
town hall, there's
department,
9,000 that we're not calling for. Under the police department CIP, 48,000 last year. We're not calling for any this year. And then the Great Works Regional Land Trust, if you recall, we had $10,000 we allocated to them for some conservation
Right.
land that they purchased here in Berwick, and there's no request for that. So those are some of the larger items that have a direct effect on this, and really had an effect on this whole overall budget and the establishment of your tax rate last year, because some of these CIP accounts, we raised and allocated $192,000 last year for CIP funding. And in previous years, we had used our fund balance to cover those costs. So there wasn't any increase in the tax rate, but unfortunately, last year, there was because of the balance that we had with our remaining fund balance as
that
opposed to
dropped
what we
pretty
had.
low.
It had, yeah. So you have those pieces in there, and I'm sure we'll talk about them
Well, that
further.
48,000 in the police CIP, that's because we're not buying a new cruiser. That's a big part of that.
Correct. That is the primary piece of that.
Yeah, now, planning on buying two this year or
No,
one?
We're,
Originally, it was one.
Right.
yeah, we're not purchasing any.
Any
I know we're not
purchase.
purchasing any, but I said, but originally was it two or one?
I believe we were on the one vehicle rotation this upcoming season.
Okay,
And it looks like the possibility of going to just a single purchase from here on in, as opposed to the system that was had of two 1 year and one the second year.
yeah, Tim did
You
make
know,
a.
he seemed to think that one would be adequate,
Yeah.
so that's how that came about. Keith, in the town hall, last year we had $9,000 in there. There is some work that's got to be done on the front of this building, serious work.
Yeah, if I may, that was not what this CIP was for last year. It was for the purchase of new voting machines, and there were some other purchases that are just not on the top of my head right now. We lumped all of our CIP on buildings into one last year, and that was the $55,000 allocation that we had set aside, based on the recommendations that were provided by your committee at the time.
Okay.
And it is my view, unless you change, is that we'll continue, and if you look, right now, I've put another $55,000 aside to go back into that building account, and then we'll begin to look at the review that you did and whatever other emergency repairs that may come up over the next year, and make sure that we take care of those needs as we move forward.
But now that 9,000, I think you mentioned it was there for a voting machine?
Well,
Would that voting machine be in the 55,000?
no, it's not.
I didn't think it would
No,
be.
no, the 55 is,
So the 9,000 will still be there for that voting machine
right,
because,
you'll have to, forgive me, I didn't expect you to get into this tonight, so let me take a quick look and see if I can tell you what was put into the town hall last year to cover those costs.
my question is the money still there if the state comes out and says what type of voting machine to buy?
Yeah, we have $9,972.04 as of this, in our town hall CIP account.
So that will take care of that voting machine because we're renting one now.
That and whatever other costs that we have there. I'd have to look at last year's town report, last year's town report, which I do have.
I didn't bring
I
mine.
think it told us right on it, particularly what the 9,000 was going to be used for.
Well, I know Judy was concerned that, to keep
But
that money in
I
there.
believe Judy told me that a new voting machine to match with the state mandates is roughly 7,000.
Yeah, well, they haven't mandated anything
I know
yet.
it, they're still-
Come on.
That's typical of Augusta.
But the type we've got, I think works fine.
But that's not the point.
There's no
If
point,
this-
there's no point the point is we do need another one.
The 9,000 it was Article 20 of last year, and it was set aside to authorize the purchase of a copy machine, voting machine, and computer upgrades.
Yeah, see, I'm pretty sure Judy was.
So
So
talking
there's
to
still
me
some balance there to.
About.
Should we put an article in the warrant again this year for the same thing?
We're not recommending it, no,
Not recommending.
not at this point. When we begin to finally develop that warrant articles, and, if you look at your sample articles that I provided last week, I believe I left it on there. And as you begin to go through that, you can let me know where you want to be with that cost, and if there's any other additional information you need from us prior to making your decision, we'll certainly supply it to you, but.
I think we've waited, 3 years for an answer on
Well,
what type
I don't
of
know why,
machine.
I don't know why the state is lagging so far behind on that one. I mean, to me, it's not such a
Well,
big deal.
they had some older folks in the legislature and had to get things done.
Really.
I apologize, really, age is not a big factor here.
I think you're getting senile, okay?
I've been called worse by
I
better
told
people.
you, keep it up and you will get. Takes me a while to think, but I get through it usually.
You got any other questions about the assessing, or?
The other debate that,
Yeah, we
you
haven't
know,
even gone into assessing yet.
well, we've been talking about it.
Well, yeah, but I meant we're not,
Okay.
I mean, this here is what we've been doing is this.
Well, I went over the assessing budget
Yeah, all
because
right.
that's what I thought we were here to do, and I
That
explained to
is,
you
but
what.
I haven't even,
Okay.
got it. We did talk about looking into, if you remember, I think in the contract, we got in the contract that we would have to give them a 90-day notice.
Right, we have an opt-out provision within the
That's right.
contract if we,
And we were, with the previous board, kind of looking, maybe to look into a single assessor. And-
well, if, your past colleagues were not in favor of that. And,
Oh,
you know.
one was.
That very well may be. My recommendation to you would be not to go back to a single assessor, but to aggressively look at regional assessing services and to try to coordinate with perhaps our neighbors to provide that type of service. If in fact you're dissatisfied or you feel that the time is right to make a change in the assessing provider that you have, I don't believe going back to a single is the most cost-effective.
Well, I don't, okay, I don't have a problem with regional. However, I read an article on, not really, yeah, assessing appraisals and things. And what it, and I don't know if it was a Maine municipal thing or not, yeah, but it said that, real estate has dropped approximately 35% across the country. Whether it's dropped 35% here or not, I'm certainly not, informed enough to make that statement. But also it said that when somebody comes in, does an appraisal, and they start comparison, what about short sales? Are those taken in? And I wanted to talk to a real estate agent and asked him, an appraiser, and I haven't done that. But there's a lot of homes that are sold on short sales. Is there any way that they even know that's a short sale?
Well, I think what you need to do is, and we just recently, and I was holding it until all your membership is once elected and we're here, is that annually the state, the Maine Revenue Service does provide us a ratio analysis and provides us what our new ratio will be for the upcoming year. They do that on data that is provided to them by our assessor's office and their review of that. And I do know that the assessors do inform them if they have some idea of things that need to be avoided as they're reviewing those values. So I'm not sure, and we'd have to ask specifically whether or not short sales are avoided as a comparison to do a
Well, is there any way,
arm's length transaction.
any way do they know that it is a short sale?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not
I guess,
detailed
yeah,
in their
no,
operation.
I'm not either, but that's my question, because I don't believe on the deed or anything, it comes up or anything that it's a short sale or the transfer tax or anything.
It wouldn't show there.
I know, and so therefore, when somebody comes in and does an appraisal on a piece of property, on a home, and they're going, comparison, our assessor do it by comparison, and there's two or three in that category that's had a short sale, because I know that Berwick has had some short sales. I know one definitely. And it was quite a discount from what it was appraised to sell for. It was like 50-some thousand, which was and the banks and the previous owner, I guess, agreed to that, because they bought it for that.
Something that perhaps you could do, Keith, is to find out if either South Berwick or North Berwick would be amenable to sharing assessing duties,
Well, they do share one now,
Yes, they do.
Oh, South Berwick?
North and South.
North and South Berwick do share an assessor at this point. But we can certainly,
Now, Lebanon does not have an assessor, do they? Don't the Selectmen do it?
I do not know what is occurring in Lebanon, but I believe your assumption is correct. I believe the assessing
They always did.
is still done by the Board of Selectmen.
Well, for what it's worth, If you could check into that, just so we have some information to work from, if nothing else.
Well, I think Keith's been talking to him anyway.
We do, we talk about that stuff all the time, but now, if there's an actual need here for us to really pursue, I think what I like about the contract that we presently have with our assessing is that we have the 60-day opt-out. In the event that
Yeah.
you want me to aggressively
Yeah.
look at these things, we have plenty of flexibility to let our present contractor
Did the
know.
previous board ask you to look into it?
We did a general thing in terms of looking at overall regional efforts.
Because I think, to me, that's something we've got to do.
Sure.
You got anything else, dear?
Don't be such a hurry.
Well, time is fleeing. We don't have much left.
You plan on dying?
Well, you never know. Chances are always possible.
And we also got planning to do. No, I personally believe that I'd like to have Keith at least keep on a discussion with the regional
Yeah.
assessor. And then we probably would have to have, I don't know, an assistant one in our town, each town, or?
I don't know how it will work out. I think we'd have to look
How does that work
at.
with North Berwick and South
I think
Berwick?
we'd have to look at what the parcel counts are, see what their parcel amount is in both of those communities compared to what we have, and then figure out whether or not one assessor and maybe one assistant can accommodate all of those three regions together. I think it ups for more discussion, and obviously, the managers can have those initial discussions, but the boards are gonna have to get together and make those final determinations of whether or not they think it warrants it for their communities.
Well, I think that, once we get a full board, we should think very seriously of having the three towns meet like we always did.
Anything else?
No, I guess probably that's all. I can always bring it up again if I have to.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, once we get through this, after tonight, we'll be pretty much through our preliminary discussion with you folks in reference to our operating budgets. We haven't gone over the CIP accounts or our other,
We haven't done the recreation either, have we?
recreation or community social service agencies. We still have those outstanding. And then there are a bunch of other little pieces that fall into place as well. But after tonight, you'll go through the brunt of our costs associated with the operation of the community.
Anybody care to speak?
Well, we
Questions
haven't
or
done
answers?
planning.
Where have you been?
No, we haven't done planning.
We haven't done,
We still got planning.
see, I know you're getting senile.
If I may, planning encompasses the planning board and its functions, and the code enforcement office and ordinance enforcement and their functions are within this budget. And it also includes half of the cost for the planning and assessing coordinator. So you'll find that half of it will be up here in your wage for planning, and half of it in the wages for assessing. And then here in the planning wages, you'll also find the CEO's annual salary plus his benefit package, and so on and so forth. And that's all encompassed within this budget.
And the CEO's wages come under what?
Comes under planning, and if you look into
Well, I
your...
know it, but I've got wages for planning here, but I don't see, there's not his, is it? It's just a half of Jones.
Well,
Okay,
then you've
wait
got
a
the
minute.
assessing one.
Wait a minute. I got it right here. Yeah, I got it, okay.
Okay?
And then that comes under planning office.
That comes under planning, yeah.
Yeah.
And all the expenses of the the committee comes under here.
Yes, and then the operation of his office, which includes his training, recertification, our dues to Southern Maine Regional Planning under technical assistance, any stuff that they provide to us, any ads in Planning Board and Board of Appeals, public hearings, come under the printing charges in this account. Supplies for both the planning and code office. Postage is the same for planning and code. Whether mailings and certified letters and so on and so forth have to go out. And then the equipment, whatever equipment cost related to the department.
Okay, back to assessing. The tax maps. Now, we have to send them out once a year to have them brought up to date.
We generally do it twice a year.
Or twice a year, oh, okay, twice a year.
No,
And-
every other year, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Oh,
We usually do the mapping update every other year. What usually occurs now is
what
that,
is the cost of that? Because 2,500 doesn't sound like much
yeah,
for deed charges and all that.
it pretty well covers it at this particular point. It's a little bit less than that. I'd have to find out what it was our last time.
Okay, and
we
who
had it
does
done.
that?
Right now, it's done by Underwood Engineers. They update our mapping for us. What occurs is that as deeds come into the office, the assessors will then look at the deeds and print or apply to our tax maps whatever deed descriptions are there and provide them on our mapping. We also provide a copy of that to the CEO, so he has an understanding of any subdivision of lands that may have occurred as well. Once we have an abundance of these, and what we have found over the past several years is every other year is needed to do it. Now, sometimes it may have to go every year, but right now it's every other year.
And this isn't the year we're gonna do it?
Yes, it would be this year, it'll be within this budget.
Well, why I say that, because I was led to believe by a previous member of the board, that was like around $8,000 a year, 7.5, just for the tax maps.
I don't believe it's that much.
Well, evidently not, you've only,
Yeah,
got
I
down
can
here,
get a,
2,500
right.
for maps and deed charges.
I can certainly get you a better idea of what that cost is, if
Well, to
you,
me,
if you
this
so
sounds
need it.
great compared to what I thought,
Yeah.
was led to believe it was. And that's the only question I got on that.
You all set?
Mhm.
Oh, good. I'll try it again. Anybody wish to speak, more than welcome. And if silence is golden,
Yes, sir.
you want to,
Hearing aid? It is. Silence is gold.
try to straighten him out, will you, dear?
Huh?
I know it's a challenge, but do the best you can.
Well, I thought I'd get a little excitement going here.
Anyone that has any issues, questions or anything, fine. Let's go up to the mic and express them, and we'll move from there.
I guess this might be a good time as to what do you, what would you like to take on at next Tuesday's meeting?
Well, I
I
don't
mean,
think.
that'll be the Tuesday before the candidates' night, which will be on Wednesday, the 21st, okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, we're getting close to that election, but I don't know what you would like to, if you want to go through the CIP accounts and any other outstanding things we haven't looked at yet, so we can just explain them to you, or if there's something else that you need to.
We haven't done rec yet.
Right, we can do recreation.
Then that shouldn't take too long.
I think we're getting down to the point where, I have no problem meeting, but I'm just thinking in terms of,
You getting sick of meeting?
No, not at all. But until we have a full board, there's not much more that we can do anyway. We can hear what is being recommended,
Right.
and that's all we've been able to do anyway.
Well, we certainly can go over, the other thing that we can do is sort of prepare, after the vote on the 3rd, prepare for our next series of meetings and sort of put down what you feel may be important for us to discuss. For me, I'm looking at, and please, if you don't think this is appropriate, let me know. Tuesday, April 3rd will be the vote.
Yeah.
I would expect that we're gonna have a bunch of outstanding bills that are gonna need to be reviewed and paid. It would be my thought that Wednesday, April 4th, we would have an organizational meeting of the new board, elect the chairman and vice chair, and begin the process of getting prepared to conduct some more business, and then be able to, I'll have the finance director here that night as well as myself, and we'll have all of our bills that we've held
Yeah.
for that time
right.
that we need to go through and explain to you folks prior to giving us approval for them. And at that point, you may be able to set together establish dates for a real thorough budget review again with your new colleagues, and then begin to finalize some of those to prep for the public hearing. So,
You're gonna have to put together the warrant before too long.
yes.
You know, that's, once
We'll-
the budget session is pretty well done,
Right, what we'll do is we'll provide to you a new timeline as to what we'll need to do and what days we'll need to do it. At this,
We can always have a workshop session if we need to with the new board members.
Yep.
After the 3rd, like the next Tuesday, have a workshop session to catch up on what we're behind in, such as the warrant and the bills and.
but I think Keith is saying do it Wednesdays, the
Yeah.
day after
do our first one
election.
Wednesday, an
Yeah.
organizational meeting that night
Yeah,
to take care of
but
those
what I'm saying,
issues.
We have a general workshop, yeah.
Yeah, we may not either, but we may need to do that.
I almost think that, it's
It's not that
peculiar.
far away though, is it?
But New England is New England, and as soon as
3
you
weeks.
start changing nights, folks get all bent out of shape because they can't figure out the calendar.
Well, all I'm thinking on Wednesday, the 4th, is just to have an organization meeting and pay our bills.
Yeah,
It's important for us to get that done. I'm sincerely hopeful that your new colleagues will understand the importance of
So
that.
do you plan on having a meeting the 3rd?
No, we'd have the vote on the 3rd, and then,
Yeah, because it'll be too late.
yeah, it'll be after 8 o'clock that night. And I
Post don't
think it-
close till 8, and then they gotta.
Right,
count
then
on
they
it.
gotta
Wednesday's-
tally.
Wednesday's fine with me.
If we
I
could
have
just
no
do a
problem
quick
with
one on Wednesday, maybe 6:30 to, 7:15 at the
Oh,
latest, just to get
However long
organized.
it takes us,
Yeah, sure.
it's no problem.
it. So we'll list that as an organizational meeting.
And then we'll be back on our routine schedule after that. Whatever that schedule ends up being, and then,
Well, I really think probably between now and the time that we put the warrant together, we're gonna have to meet every Tuesday anyway, Keith.
there's a possibility of that,
I
yeah.
really think that's
Bring
gonna be the
everybody up to
case.
speed, sure.
Yeah.
No, this Thursday night, wait, no, it's not. Where am I here?
This Thursday, I'm gonna be meeting with the planning board
I'll say, the planning board
Right.
is, we're meeting on,
to review, to change the use of the building that we presently own from an educational facility to a municipal facility. That night, that's what it will entail, just that change. And then whatever is decided in the future for the reuse of the multipurpose room, we'll then have to go back to a planning board review to review parking and any other conditional uses that will have to be provided by the planning board for us to bring that use on board. So this is really a
What do we
two-step
have
process.
to do to get permission from Bateman to do that? If I was a parking lot's concerned?
Well, I'll look at our lease agreement again, but I believe the lease agreement allows the municipality to utilize all the surrounding land.
With their permission?
Right,
So you've got to go to them and ask them
right.
Well,
the
it
permission to
would
do
not-
that.
We couldn't put a building up there.
Well, no, I know that, but what I'm saying is,
But
we
they're
we can do nothing without their permission, is what I'm
Well,
saying.
their lease encompasses only the parking lot. The extra land is open land.
No, their lease encompasses the whole thing, and we cannot put a parking
Why don't
area
I,
in
why don't I get the,
without getting their permission
why don't I
to do
get the
it.
lease out again? We'll take a look
I
at the lease.
disagree with you.
Well, disagree if you want to, but that's the way it
We'll
is.
take a look at the lease again, and just to ensure that those things are
Well,
easily
that's what the lawyer,
accomplished.
that's what Alan told us, that we could, just go and get permission, and there would be no reason why they wouldn't, where they could care less.
But I think what I would like to impress upon you both, on Thursday night, it's a very simple process that we're gonna be doing. All we're gonna do is look to change the use from educational to municipal. It should have been done,
When the
months
police-
ago, is when
the
we
police-
purchased the property, we should have changed the use then. It was an oversight and something that we did not look at, but we really need to clean that up, and then get that taken care of. So, we'll do that on Thursday night, hopefully.
And I will be there.
And then the next challenge will be what the Selectman Murphy and Selectman Crichton have been discussing, will be the use of the multipurpose and whatever other conditions or process that we need to follow in order to get the wishes that you would
Yeah.
like to have done there.
But if you're gonna have it at a community center, you've got to have a parking area.
Yeah, and I've spoken to Selectman Crichton about this. I think that once we have the new board, we need some definitive direction from you folks. I mean, his committee is ready, willing, and able to proceed with a lot of modifications and reuse of that facility, but I think it's premature if we don't get the votes of this board to say, yes, those are the goals we have in mind. Let's go ahead and move forward to get those goals accomplished. So I think that's something else that will need to be discussed here at this table.
Would you like to have me sign that for you and send it in?
You know, I used to like you.
No, I see you haven't done it. You only got till the 31st.
I'm not sure about that.
I've already
though.
sent in mine, a lot of them.
But it needs to be cleaned out, I'll admit.
Do you have anything else tonight?
I don't have anything, do you?
No, I guess I'm fine.
Good.
Okay. I'll put together a meeting schedule for you on next Tuesday, and we'll try to finalize these things here. We'll do recreation and a bunch of others, and get that done. I'll give you a cleaner draft of a warrant, so you can look at that and there were some questions that were proposed to me after that there were some samples of warrant articles in there that are not necessary. So I'll take those off and clean that up a little bit. And then whatever other issues come up, we can address them that night.
Yeah, we've got something I was thinking of here. Oh, well. But, I know. We've got to start thinking about working on the policies. I think that's a very important item that we have kind of dropped by the wayside.
Well, I think that's something that, that'll be one of the things that we should brainstorm about.
Yeah, but I know we need a full board to do that, but we certainly should.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay? Thank you.
You probably want that, I would think.
Appreciate it.
Now, this Thursday night, there's a meeting for the school board in Lebanon.